Welcome to Story Circles. Here's a lovely story about a little girl whose very first day at a new school turns out to be quite eventful. It's called Christina and the Bully. It was Christina's first day of school in her new town. She was thinking of the friends she'd left behind in their little village on the other side of the island. She held on to her mother's hand as they walked up the busy street to the school. Although their home was just 3 blocks away, it felt like the street was 1,000 miles long. She was conscious of curious eyes and strange voices that asked, "Who are those people? Where did they come from? Where's her father?" Her mother walked briskly, and so did the girl, both pretending to hear nothing. When they reached the school gate, she hugged her mother tightly, then looked at the schoolyard. So many children and so much noise. Some boys were running after each other, whooping and screaming, and groups of girls huddled together. With resolve, Christina stepped through the confusion to the old red brick building. The first teacher she met pointed to her classroom, and there she took a seat at the back near the windows. The bell rang. Children poured into the room and filled up the seats. They were all talking about the new girl. The teacher hushed them, then began calling the roll. As she called out Christina King in a loud, clear tone, everyone turned to the girl. Their eyes spoke more loudly than any voice ever could. She was not a member of their class. She was a most unwelcome visitor. The children repeated her name to each other. Don't look like a king. Don't look like a princess either. Some laughter rose. They were all staring at her. Right beside her sat a tall, stout boy. He was the one who had mumbled those words that seemed so cruel, and he was laughing at her, laughing with the rest of the class. Christina's heart dropped. She would have to be tough. The teacher tapped the silence bell, and when they were quiet, said, "I want you to be friends with Christina. She is new here. She needs all the love and kindness you can give her." Lunchtime came. Christina joined the cafeteria line to get her meal. A few moments later, a scuffle broke out at the front. It was her seatmate. He was shoving a little boy out of his place in the line. "Get out of here, Shrimp, before I whack you on your back, Shrimp." His rough words were heard all around. The little boy stumbled but held his ground. The girl behind him said, "Do what he says, or he'll punch you." The little boy was angry but afraid, and he began to tremble and cry. His shoulders dropped in defeat. Christina saw the bully roll up his sleeves to show his strength. He lifted his chin, looked down the line of children, and said, "Today's your lucky day. Keep your place." As he walked down the line, he looked meaningfully at Christina, as if to say, "Watch out. See who I am." That was the most miserable lunch hour ever for Christina. She stood in the shade of the spreading almond tree in the yard, watching everyone until the bell rang to begin afternoon classes. No one wanted to be her friend. She didn't know the games they played. All she wanted was to be back at her old school with her old friends, playing the games they loved. She spent the rest of the day in the classroom, sitting in quiet observation. Two fans whirred and hummed from the ceiling. Beneath them sat 30 sleepy students. The teacher put them to work on social studies, then math. At the back of her mind, Christina puzzled over the unfamiliar situation in which she had found herself. Moving to a new place was awful, and from a rural village to a modern town. If only her mum hadn't made that decision. By the time the final bell rang, Christina felt quite exhausted. She couldn't wait to get home. She stepped onto the street. A car screeched to a halt just a couple feet from her. Someone shouted, "Be careful when you cross this street." Then the boy who sat next to her in class tapped her shoulder. "You're new here in town, aren't you, old-fashioned Christina?" She glared at him. "Don't call me names. Don't call me old-fashioned Christina. I can call you anything I want. You can't do anything about it," he added smugly. Christina thought to herself, "He's trying to pick a fight with me. He's testing me because I'm new." Well, she'd show him not to mess with her. She placed her books on the sidewalk and looked him fiercely in the eye. "If you ever call me that again, I will push you down." "Old-fashioned Christina, old-fashioned Christina." The boy sang it all out loudly. Christina placed her hands on his chest and pushed with all her strength. He staggered back. She waited for his next move. "Try again, push me again." The boy laughed. Christina's heart was racing. She'd show him. She pushed again. This time he didn't budge. "Again, push me again." This time she went at him with all the force she could muster, and he did stumble just a bit. Christina stiffened and waited for him to strike back. Instead, the boy smiled. He bent down, picked up her book bag, and handed it to her. "Welcome to the neighborhood, Christina. My name is Joe. You're a brave one. You certainly are. Just be careful when you cross this street." Suddenly, the burden of this first day at the new school lifted. She had made an ally. Could they become friends? Christina wasn't sure. She knew only time would tell.